About, excuse me, about 65 years ago, we moved up here to Lomita Village. It's out in the middle of, I've told you before, it's out in the middle of nowhere. And just down around the corner, night, we'd hang out, 5 or 6, 8, 10, well, listen. I remember one time telling the guys and the girls there about what it would be like, what the experience of a baby. Just imagine a baby, you know, being nowhere, and then all of a sudden you've got sight and sound and feeling and taste and smell. You know, you went from nothing to all of a sudden, all of that right there. It must have just, you know, how did the baby survive that? Now I want to go back to about 1947 or so. Now this is about 8 years old or whatever. I started getting this feeling that I didn't like, and it would just plague me. I hated it, and it would 5 or 6, some all scads time, all the way up till I was 18. This experience would come to me, and I hated it, and I never figured out what it was. But I don't know if I ever told anybody, but I think I did. And the way I explained it was that, like if you take a sheet of paper and you take a fine sharpened pencil and you just make a little dot in the middle, then you wad that paper up, and that's one of the parts I felt was just this, like the entire universe was just pressing in on me. I got all of this pressure building on me. And I can't remember all of them now, but one of them would be like my hands. You know, they were stuck together, and I could still feel this pressure. And I remember my face kind of being nothing and just blotches. And another part was when it'd be like if I'm all together, and if I happen to go like this, it was about a mile out to my elbow and then a mile back and bring it back, and then I'm all tight. I remember feelings like that. Anytime something got away, it just went for miles and then came back. And, you know, so staying in a ball was, you know, it's hard to explain it, but there were more feelings than that. I just can't remember them all right now. And so this is going on from age 8 to 18 or so. And it was many times a year, and then it got less and less each year. And by the time we moved up here to the village, so 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, it was only 3, 4, or 5 times a year. And there were times when I would get, just during the day, all of a sudden I would feel like my fingers were together and the pressure, and then I'd shake it off, so because I had to have experienced all these things at night, and I just dreaded them. I hated it. And then, I don't know, 19, 20 years old, I was out at my sister's in Ramona, and I was going through a junk drawer, and I found a baby nipple, and that was that smell. Because also every time I went into this, there was a smell and a milky taste and a smell went with it, and that's when I started putting it together that what I was remembering was being in my mother's womb. So, you know, you've seen those when they go to ultrasounds and the babies, and even TV, they got them all the way through. You can see the parts where the hands were like this, and you could just make out the fingers, but it was like a blob, you know, and that's the way it was. And the blotchy parts before the eyes and nose actually started coming in and feeling it. And there's a plant that only grows along freeways, big green guy and a big white flower. that I smelled that flower one time looking for a golf ball, and that's that smell. Same as that old worn out bottle nipple. And but now think of this in this terms. What I'm going back into that, and it's not a reoccurring dream. It's a reoccurring memory. Now, when I'm going into this memory, I'm going in it from age 8 to 18. 10 years of my mind is, I know everything. I feel things. I've had all my five senses. I've had boils on my back, lanced, and I had. So when I go into that memory, I go in there with all of this information with me, and that's why it's horrible. But when I think about what it must have been then, it must have been really a neat thing. Just, you don't know anything about the outside world. It's just you're developing and you're experiencing it, and it's going in your mind. And now let's think about the mind here. You saw the memory, the uniqueness, and the one about all the ancestors or whatever. So here's the egg, and here's the sperm coming. Now think about butter. They say the brain is like butter, spring butter. Summer butter melts, and winter butter's hard as a rock. But spring butters, that's what the brain is kind of like, mushy like that. And it doesn't matter if you have a pound of butter up here or a stick of butter, or you take a toothpick and stick it into the butter and you got a little teeny piece on the end. Doesn't matter. It's all that matters, that little speck. Now, let's go back to, here's the egg, and here's the sperm, and it comes down, and let's look at this as a computer. You buy a computer and it's all set up and ready to go, and you bring it home, and all it's waiting for is personal, for you to put your personal stuff in it. So it's a personal computer. And so here's all my ancestors, and my mom and my dad, my two grandmas and two grandpas, and my 8 great grandpas and my 8 great grandmothers. You got all these ancestors and all their memories and all their DNA and their chromosomes and chromosomes and anticipation zones and twilight zones. You got all this stuff that's in the egg and it's in the sperm. Now that stuff's there, and as soon as that egg hit that sperm, the conception, I'm there, and I have my mind. I think that the mind is the first thing you get, because just like that little speck of butter, that's why that feeling, the beginning of my feeling is that just like I'm a little teeny dot, nothing, and just the pressure of the entire universe just squeezing in on me. So that's what I'm like. But that's my mind. I don't know if you call it a brain with matter or whatever, because the egg is matter and the sperm is a matter. It's matter. It's whatever it is, flesh, and when they come together, that's my conception point. And there it is, and it's just this blank and this ancestral computer. It's like everything's there for all these 6,000 ancestors, or 30,000 ancestors, however many there were, because it keeps doubling and 18 and 16, 32, and so on. So it's like this empty ancestral computer, the egg and the sperm, and now it's time for me to start putting me into that ancestral build-up of me being who I'm going to be. And the first thing I put in there is that little dot, that little speck on the end of the toothpick, the little stab of butter, and it's all that pressure. And so I'm thinking that even though I hated going into it, as, oh no, here it comes again. But in that point, then it would have been an adventure. Just imagine you're created, you're right there, and you start to develop. And I wish I could remember all of them. If I went all the way back to the dot, I must have had a whole bunch more that I don't recall. But the part about the blotches on the face, and pretty soon their eyes, and elbow going out 2 or 3 miles and then coming back. That must have been exciting. So being in the womb is not a bad, horrible place to be. It's a growing experience. It's a wonderful place. It's the meaning of life. God knew what He was doing when He created us. And He knew all about this before He even created the universe. All that pressure. So I'm wondering if anybody, after watching this, they can remember those feelings of the pressure and the fingers stuck together and the blotchiness and the miles going back that way. You think you could remember all that? If you do, let me know, because I think that at that point of conception, it was, I don't know, like scientists say, well, you don't get a heart until this, and you don't get a toenail until this, and you don't get a brain until this. I don't know if there's a difference between a brain and a mind, spirit or soul, whatever it is. That first thing was there in the very beginning. My mind was the egg and the sperm. I'm there. It's me. I'm starting to put together memories in the womb. And then, of course, I don't remember anything about the birth, but it had to have been a cultural shock, so to speak. And I just thought of this just a few minutes ago. And then all of a sudden the mother's arms, and then you're back, you're comforted now. You remember this, and what got your mouth over to the nipple? That essence, that smell, that taste, that essence, like a bee. It goes right to the flower, and you see those babies, man. They just right to that nipple. Isn't that amazing? Just think of it. It's something I like to think about, and I don't care what people say. My point of conception was the beginning of me. I was there. I remember being there.